All right, guys. What's up? Welcome to the GPOD. This is the first episode of the podcast between me, Zack Gallagher, my brother Nick. After 12 years in the game of Kendama, we have finally decided that it's a really good idea to start a podcast between us. We have a lot of experience in different areas of Kendama, tricks, competitions, traveling, events, everything. So this is going to be a podcast to talk about Kendama and more. Nick?
What's up, guys? What's going on? This podcast, just like Zach said, is going to be, we're Konami players and been in the game for many, many years. But we're also going to be sharing our thoughts on different things, our mindsets, our other goals in life. Just want to talk about what we've got going on and also hopefully offer value to those who desire, I don't know, or just want to pick our brains at different things surrounding Konami and different I guess hobbies that we might share as well. So yeah, and with that, I guess we'll just get into it right now. Our first topic today is how to win an event. So Zach and I have, we got a lot of experience under our belt playing over the years, and we've managed to win a handful of events, and also in the pursuit of that, placed at various events as well. So we just wanted to kind of share our thoughts today about exactly how we do that and how we've been able to do it for many, many, many years. And to those people who would like to podium, would like to win, this is kind of our recommendations. These are the things that we usually do. And hopefully, maybe if you're not doing these things right now, you can implement them as well. And we can hopefully get you up there at the first place spot in any way possible. So here we go.
Yeah, guys. So we're just going to break down a couple tips today, starting with number one, find your why. So this is going to precede every other tip because at the end of the day, if you don't have a strong why for doing something, anything, you're going to be less inclined, less motivated to either practice for it or, of course, go on and then do it. Finding your why is really important because it's the baseline fire within you, to get you going to win the event, to practice for the event, to try hard and do your best. You have to have a strong reason. And it's funny because when I say that, some of you may be thinking, like, what's the deep reason I should win? I should really look inward. And for some of you, that could be it. And for some of you who actually might not, consider yourselves competitive or consider yourselves like, oh, I can't win an event. Maybe some of you are stuck in that mindset without you even knowing. Some of you may have to look inward and find within yourself a reason, but it doesn't matter what level the reason is. It can be as shallow as I want, and this isn't even really shallow. I'm just shallow into comparison to more intense, deep meanings. But I want to have pride. I want to, get sponsored. Or how about this? Yeah, I want to get sponsored. So I think winning this event will increase my chances. Could just be that, or it could be as deep as I want to prove to myself in my future self that I can do something I've never done before, and I really, really, really want to use this as a reflection of what's possible for me. Either way, it it either reason, either any level of reason is fine, but identifying your why, because at the end of the day, the desire to win is going to be has the potential to be strong from any reason whatsoever. So
Mhm.
you know having a strong baseline, a strong why, is going to fuel you for your process towards winning an event from the very start.
Yeah, I feel like just to touch on my why or our I feel like our whys have been pretty similar when I don't know about now, but I guess when we were really, really together all the time. I mean, obviously we want to beat each other, growing up,
Yep.
always playing on the same sports team with soccer, and then there's always that competitive mindset, right? I mean, you want to be one of the best players on the team, and obviously we want to beat each other, right? Because having someone beside you all the time competing at the same thing you're doing, it's like why wouldn't you want to beat them if you have this competitive mindset? So my why has definitely been revolved around. I mean, obviously, just trying to do better than myself last time, but also honestly trying to beat Zach a lot. That's I think that's played a huge factor. I've always wanted to, if he was doing an amazing trick or did something better than I did, then I wanted to go right up and try and top that. And I think that kind of spreads, even if it wasn't like direct thinking. I think that definitely played a part in my why of wanting to win. I always wanted to I don't know. I feel like whenever I saw Zack do something incredible, I wanted to also do that thing immediately. Like the first time I saw Zack the first time I saw Zack win NAKO in 2015, I was like, oh my God, he just won nationals. Like I need to, like, I don't know if that could ever, I hope that could be me someday. And I want it to be me someday. So yeah, I'm gonna definitely aim for that. And then, yeah, it happened. So it
And
happened the
lo and
next
behold, the year after.
the year after it happened in 2016. My parents were like, yeah, Nick, now it's your time to win this year. I'm like, yeah, mom, it's not that easy, but sure. Yeah, I'll try my best. And then I won. So, yeah, it was incredible. But it definitely all thanks to Zack and I pushing each other. That's been my why, I think, just having that competitive mindset and the environment around as well.
Yeah, and my why is just because I wanted to, it's just the inner competitor. I want to do well. When I compete in something, it's something like this. Something especially like Kendama, where I'm so invested, right? I'm so passionate about it. I want to win. I don't do competitions to lose, and Nick definitely doesn't either. So with something like this, it's the motivation was I want to do as good as I can, and that has carried me throughout every competition, whether I've done really well or some circumstances in the few instances where I've gotten out earlier than I thought. It doesn't matter. It's just what I've gone into each comp with, and I found that it's been a consistent reason for me to become motivated. Of course, everybody's motivations can change, but it's just the reason being is some people don't really are kind of scatterbrained with intercomps. A lot of people actually don't want to win, which is totally fine. A lot of people, maybe Nick, we can touch on the different experiences of an event kind of a little bit here. What I want to say with that is, a lot of people's why towards winning an event is so unimportant to them or so non-existent, just fine. Some people want to, just session the courtyard all day and not really pay attention to comp, because they're the why of winning is not there. Because if it was, they'd be doing something else.
Right.
And I think also too, like, yeah, the motivation is so important. And also, one thing I want to say, along with some people who are kind of listening to this and they think, I touched on this earlier. It's like, like, I don't know if I can win. Like, there's so many pros that are like really good. Oh, I'm going to tell you this, and this isn't even for just the pro division. If you can do all the tricks throughout the entire division you're in, whether it
Mm.
be, yeah, as long as like all of them, like obviously you're going to have to do the top 8 tricks, right? The level 3 tricks, the last level tricks. If you can do all of them, you don't have to get them even 5 times in a row. If you can do all of them, you have a shot at winning. No one is unbeatable. Everybody's human, even your favorite pro. So if you can do all these tricks, you have a shot at winning. And I think hopefully that resonates with some people. I know some people who have faced pros or faced people think that their opponent is way better than them, have had a close shot, and have actually talked
Yeah.
about, hey, like, I actually could have won that match. And that's happened to me. It's happened to me. It's happened to Nick. It's happened against where the opponent versus us, where me and my brother, like we slip up and it's a closer match, or maybe the other person wins, who knows? But it's a thing. Nobody is unbeatable. And for hopefully some people that resonates, some players that are listening to this, and hopefully that kind of, incentivizes you to kind of think about your why and then kind of get this process rolling in your mind. Cause, you know, something that Nick says is that most of the things that are going to determine the outcome for the comp happen before the comp itself, and this is part of it.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, I think to some of what Zach's trying to say is if you don't have a why to win, then you're definitely, you have a really low shot at winning. And to those who want it, they usually have a why. You just need to identify that and kind of use that as your drive. And that's just what's going to separate you from those who don't want it as bad as you do. I mean, there's a lot of players. That's why the only like you see the same players winning events. It's because,
Yep.
and granted, there's a lot. I mean, in America, there's a lot of great players. In Japan, there's a lot of great players, but I mean, I'd say relatively the same players usually win events most of the year, and it's just because they want it and they prepare more than the other people. I mean, that's because their why is they just want it. Probably more than most of the other competitors. And that's just the way it is right now. So yeah, find your why and use that to hopefully make some upsets and take yourself farther than you probably expect, because a lot of people give up and don't really see themselves going far anyway in the first place. And I think that's where the first mistake is made. So
Yeah,
it just
and if
all,
you Yeah, and as soon as you get your first win, you can win, you can win, and that's pretty much
Yeah.
it from there. So,
Yeah.
as I said before, you can only win if you can do all the tricks in the division, right? You're not going to expect to win. You can't even imagine winning if you can't even do the tricks, which brings me to our next point, the
Hmm.
foundation of a player. This is really important, and this actually precedes even practicing for the event because in order to be great, you have to be good. You have to be good to be great. And what that means, what I'm trying to say is you have to be able to be, you have to be a player who has it's preferable to be a player that has a natural affinity towards these tricks that are put out for a division as soon as they come out. It's going to be a lot harder for you if you can't smack way harder variations of the tricks. If you're not capable of that from the trick list, before the event, it's going to be harder for you if you have to play catch up like that because all the best players, they already can do all the hardest trick lists with they all can do way harder tricks than the tricks on the trick list. If a trick on the trick list is a banger for you, or if a lot of them are a banger for you, that's going to set you back a lot in comparison to other people who are just ahead of you because they're more skilled at these types of tricks.
Yeah, it just comes naturally to most high level players. I mean, they look at the levels 1, 2, and 3. And then for me, I actually don't like the level 1 tricks the most because and I usually
Yep.
don't even like a lot of tricks until level 3 because anybody can beat anybody on level 1 tricks, usually because
Yep.
they're so easy. And once you get to level 2, it's like, okay, there's some more, wiggle room there. But level 3, when I get to level 3, I'm like the most confident because I just know for a fact that I'm at a skill level and I've practiced to a point where, yeah, I'm definitely going to be able to hit these more times than my opponent. That's just how I usually think. And if I make it all the way to the last day, then I usually do pretty well on that regard. So that's just my perspective as a top player who's actually their play style fits in with the competition aspects and I that's just coming from me. But as Zach said, I mean you need to. There's a lot of play styles in this game, and a lot of people love doing different things like especially now, right? Get goon circles, and a lot of people just messing around with string tricks that are extremely there's on another level than so many things that I've ever seen in Kendama. I mean, it's extraordinary what people can do now with the goons and pinches and so many different string tricks. It's really fascinating. I'm genuinely like, there's no way I'll have a chance at ever doing that. If you just look at some people like I don't know Jack Gillian and many others, but I mean these people are going absolutely nuts. Not to say they're not good players at all because they're insane, but I think in order to kind of increase your chances at winning a competition, you need to at least incorporate more competition style tricks that you'd see on a trick list more often into your play style because I've never seen anybody yet that primarily does, and I mean primarily like as in avoids other mainstream, I guess, competition tricks like taps, can flips, juggles. I've never seen someone who prioritizes string tricks to the point and then of that extent and then actually win a competition. I've never seen someone who's a string player and win an open division, so I think it's definitely important to get your foundation right, recognize your weaknesses, and just definitely put in the time to practice them. And then maybe switch up your time practicing at home, right, at a jam, how you play in general. Not asking you to switch your whole entire play style, but it just comes with the fact of, again, how to win an event, right? And these are the things I think that are required.
Yeah, Nick, you talked about the trick styles, and you're right. I think there have been some incorporations of these some slight pinch moves in the tricks, but in every top competition, NAKO, Battle at the Border, Kendama World Cup, Catch and Flow, which doesn't have a trick list, but you'll see the same people, the highest level players, doing the same type of tricks.
Yeah.
They all are the same trick genres for the event. So what we're talking about, kind of, Nick, I'll list off a couple. Maybe you can list off a couple. Juggles, taps, Ken flips. What else is there?
Stall tricks. We've got people
Fast
love
hands.
lunars, inward lunars,
Mm-hmm.
fast hands. Everyone loves fast hands. I mean, you see goon circles a little more. I wouldn't even say goon circles. Goon circle, maybe like the pinch is like one pinch trick, one string trick, like two or three, maybe out of the list of 120 tricks at World Cup now. But, and they're really cool, right? I mean, there was a level 11 this year, the string pinch, 3 loop, again, swap spike, people hit that on stage, right? But I mean, the majority of tricks are still all those what people might call bland or they've seen too much of. Those are the tricks that actually matter in competition right now. And it's just you can't really argue against that because those are the tricks that are being chosen for all the trick lists year round.
Yeah.
So
And yeah, you can't, whatever style you like to play, that's cool. But the fact of the matter is, there are certain types of tricks for these big events that have always been chosen, and I don't see them changing anytime soon. And in order to, have a great chance at this, the foundation of these tricks, taps, juggles, Ken flips, stalls, like inward lunars specifically, these types of tricks, they're going to set you up for success. And if you're a person who doesn't think that they can do this, or as a person who hasn't really have a high skill level in some of these, you can become a person who does this, even if it's some trick that you're like, oh man, it's not really my trick. Oh man, I'm not really good at those. I'm more of a lunar person. I'm more of a tap person. You can easily add these to your game. I say easily because how else did you add any other style? It's you just
right.
play. You do these tricks, and of course, some people are going to be more interested in different trick genres than others. But again, if you want to win an event, your why, well, you better get practicing. You have see players all the time. You see players doing this, and even for players who are really good at these tricks, it didn't come overnight. You have players like Calvin Wong, who are who is very open about progressing in these types of tricks online, and you can kind of tell it isn't really his primary play style, but he's working on it. So that's a great example. He's a pro already. He's already achieved a pro mod. He's gotten into events. He's still challenging himself in these ways, because I know he takes the competition very seriously and he wants to set himself up for the best possible chance to win, and he's doing that. He's doing tricks that are taps and Ken flips and juggles that for other people are pretty easy, but he's rounding himself out to be a person who can become someone who's doing these tricks with ease, and he's succeeding year after year. So yeah, you can do this.
Yeah, I think also one last thing on this is the people who do the best in competitions, the people who are at the top there. I mean, it's not like you have to choose between one style. Like these people who are winning competitions, they can still do the string stuff. They can still do it to at least a certain extent. Obviously,
Right.
you don't want to compare them, like you can't really compare them to the people who just do string and or are super heavy into it. Like I'm not going to compare myself to Jack Gillian or what's that guy's name? Zack out of Hawaii. Like he now lives in somewhere else. He's
Not
that
sure.
extreme. Yeah, that guy is incredible. He does all the like. Yeah, I've just been seeing more of him recently, and not to say they can't do other things, but I mean, I'm just not going to compare myself to those people who have taken these string tricks to a different dimension. I mean, I'm not going to, yeah, but like you can still win comps and still practice string tricks, but except for it's harder to go the other way around, right? It's like people who just always focus on these string tricks, it's usually like people, I mean, you'll look at them and be like, okay, what else can they do though? Can they do these other basic tricks? And you kind of just get curious, right? You don't really know until you see them out of competition, see what they're up about. And, if they can, they can. But I'm just saying the top players who focus on competition, they can also do these other things. They're like, oh, like I have to give up all these fun strings. Like you don't have to. You're gonna be better with your base, and that's honestly just gonna make you a better player in general to acquire different tricks in different genres. So I
Yeah.
think that makes sense. But
So
yeah,
overall, just the base, and how do you acquire a strong base? You have to play Kendama. Simple as that. All these players who have a strong base and who are very good in winning these competitions and placing in all this, they play Kendama frequently. They prioritize it in their day. Um, they fit it in, and they have frequent hours throughout the week. So if you want to have a good foundation, the only option is to play. Um, yeah.
yeah,
So
and
that's yeah.
I think that goes right into the next point. I'm gonna talk about some of my one of the most important things I kind of value when going into an event if I'm trying to win. You don't want to show
Yep.
up cold. And I mean that I mean you need to be playing consistently well before the event even is near. Right? I mean you see the trick list, whatever, that kind of prompts you to gotta practice these tricks now. But and that's usually the time where it's like, okay, like there's some people out there who play a couple times a week, depends on their schedule, right? Maybe once a week, but if you're trying to win, it's got to increase. And you just need to be playing Kendama most, if not every day, if you want a chance at this. Because if you're not playing, you're not playing. And that's just gonna set yourself up for a less of a chance to actually do well and just be used to at an event just grinding all day long, right? If you're focused on winning, you have to pay attention to when your next round is. And if you're doing freestyle and open, you're pretty much on standby the entire day. And you just need to be making sure you make time for yourself to get used to that, get used to playing. And you don't want to show up rusty, because I know if I don't play for a couple days, I'm definitely rusty. I'm definitely not going to be as dialed in. Even if when I do get dialed, it's like I would have been more dialed if I played consistently up until this point. And I know that throughout experience. Then yeah, it's just all about getting reps in. If you want to separate time for practicing the tricks for the event, you want to just like that's one thing, but it's also a good thing to either set up and film / just jam by yourself and just have a session to yourself, just playing, right? I mean, you need to be playing Kendama in order to be good and ready for these events. That's exactly how I've always thought, because there's been one event I always think that if I don't practice for an event, I don't deserve to win. And if I didn't win and I practiced, well, then I just didn't practice hard enough. I mean, I don't really like to blame anybody else for anything. But I did do this one time. I went to Dama in the D 2018, and I didn't know I was going to go until 3 days before. And so I didn't really practice the tricks. I didn't really have time. Obviously, when I got there, like the day before I was practicing, day of practicing, but that's usually not how I roll. I usually practice well beforehand, right? But that year I was playing so much. I was playing so much. I mean, hours a day. I was senior in high school. Kendama was my main thing. And I really just did that. And I was playing so much. And then I went there and I ended up winning. And I know that is because I was so used to just playing all the time and just being on that level of that and just being in the zone. I mean, if you play for an hour, it depends on different people. I know Zack and I, after we play for an hour, that's where we usually hit the zone. Maybe sometimes it comes before, but after a good hour, like that's when you're really going. That's when it really starts. And I was doing that for hours a day. So going into that event, I really didn't know what to expect, but yeah, I ended up winning. And I was at a crazy good performance against Bonds in the finals and ended up taking it home. So it's possible, right? You just need to be playing, being warm. That's definitely a point I'd like to touch on
Yeah,
there.
I think that's a really good example because I didn't know you were going to go with that actually, because yeah, you didn't really practice that event. Of course, you go to Detroit, you practice the night before, you practice the day of. But that's pretty much
Mm-hmm.
it. Whereas you have other people who've been preparing to go to this event for months or ever since it's been released, and they of course didn't win. Or yeah, it depends on what division they're in. They entered pro, they didn't win. But that's a really great point. For anybody who wants a picture of how much Nick was playing, I would go to bed at midnight and Nick would
Yeah.
set up his phone and live stream for 2 hours playing
Yeah.
Kendama on Instagram. And he'd already been playing for a handful of hours beforehand. So I'd go to bed at 12. He'd set up his phone to really go hard. So Nick's landing like NBDs and sailing hard tricks at 3 a.m. for all the Romanian kids tuning in for the 9 hour time difference. Um, so that's one I want to give you guys a kind of a picture of that. That's a great example by Nick because of course he didn't practice the tricks, but the base of his skill level was so extremely high and had already like was prepared him so much for those type of tricks for the trick list that he didn't have to. He didn't have to because his skill level was already well above and beyond those are the trick list. And when it comes to just practicing those tricks, it's kind of just fine tuning some things. And he did really well. He did really, really well. He had an amazing performance against Bonds in the final. And yeah, did extremely well against him. And then something I'd like to touch on what Nick said before too, about Nick said you have to be playing, if you're only playing a couple days a week, you have to up it. I think what Nick is trying to say is more of, look, everybody has different responsibilities, lifestyles, interest in Kendama and prioritizations. I think what Nick's trying to say is if you're really trying to win an event, you're gonna have to. It's up to you. It's up to you to look inward at your schedule and your priorities. And it's like, okay, like where can I fit this in more? A lot of people will say, I don't have time to play. I don't have this. Well, the reason being why this is important is because the person who's going to win most likely and very, very, very high likelihood of this is playing more than you, is fitting it in all the time. This is what usually happens. And so not to say that you need to grind every day of your life, drop everything for a comp, and brush everything else in your life, all your responsibilities to the side. It's more of how you can look at your schedule and how you can honestly talk to yourself and figure out for yourself, how can I best optimize my time and fit Kendama in where I can to ensure the best possible chance of success at this event. For everybody, that's different, But if you're not looking at your schedule and really, thinking of like how I can best do this, then you're leaving cards on the table. And the person
Yeah.
who's going to win is going to putting in the hours, usually in the very high, that's 99% of the time. That's what's happening, wherever they are in the world. So yeah, I think that's what Nick was kind of touching on back there. You don't have to play every single day and grind, but you got to optimize your schedule for it. And I believe so.
Exactly. And I mean, like I said, I mean, I'm not when I was 18 years old, playing all the time, hours a day, live streaming at midnight. I mean, that's all I did. Now I have different interests, different priorities. I'm not using all my spare hours of the day to just play Kendama. But for an example, I mean, World Cup this year, I looked at my schedule, I made sacrifices. I practiced, and I definitely tried to fit it in almost every single day. I wanted to, because I wanted to do well at the event. It had been years since I'd gone in person because of Corona. And, it's just, you just got to be willing, what are you willing to do? Right. And, I optimized my schedule for Kendama. I train, practice for the comp specifically at different times depending on the day. And I definitely made sacrifices on, sacrificing other things I used to do and replaced it with Kendama that month, things like that. So it's just all about how far are you willing to go. And it's just, everyone has different schedules, but I mean, just people have different priorities as well. Just if you have it out of your top priority, then you're going to make more time for it. And that's just how it is.
And
And yeah, I was pretty,
Nick, I wanted to ask you, I mean, I did the same type of thing, but I did it a little more last minute than you. I think I was starting to do that in the month of July, and the competition was in July. That's when I started really intensifying my practice. But I wanted to ask you if doing that, if setting that time aside and really focusing on KWC, if you felt like you're doing it every day, was that something you wanted to do every day?
no. And that's another thing to do. We can go on that right now. I mean, I play Kendama. I live in Japan right now. I play Kendama for my job. I promote a city, Nagai City, and I usually do, I work at a place that sells Kendamas. I go to events, do performances and whatnot. I play Kendama for my job. It's a little different than playing for yourself, playing and practicing and having that time for yourself, right? Like I'm touching Kendama, but when I want to play for myself, it's usually like, and juggling them with my different priorities now, it's like, it used to be, okay, I have this hour of time to play Kendama for myself to get better and just hone in on what I want. I'm at the park. I'm on my day off. Let's go. And that time isn't, that doesn't come often. And now when I was sacrificing for KWC, it's like, okay, let's go. I got my time for my Kendama play just for myself. And I got to practice, I got to use it towards KWC. It's not like I don't have endless hours in the day. I'm not playing for hours a day, but which means that I need to focus this 1 hour for KWC practice, and I can't really enjoy freestyle, like playing freely like I used to for this current period of time. And I got used to it. There's some days where I did fit both in, but as I got more through the summer, I personally got more busy, like and just taking interest in different things in my life. But I still wanted to commit to KWC because I said, that I wanted to do well, and I said that I would like to win, and I practiced. I wasn't like 2018 Nick. I wasn't practicing hours a day, but I still made time. And it wasn't always fun, right? It was honestly aggravating sometimes because KWC practice, I don't know anybody who hasn't gotten mad doing KWC practice. We've all got pissed because it's annoying, because it's just hard, it's difficult, but it's not always going to be easy. It's not always going to be fun. And it's always going to feel rewarding either. You're not going to have the best practice sessions sometimes, but this is all normal. If you want to win, these are emotions that everyone feels when they take stuff seriously. The journey isn't always going to be positive. It's always going to be linear. There's going to be ups and downs, and you have to kind of just embrace that. The only way that people fall off is if they quit. And if you don't quit, then you have a really, really high chance of exceeding your own expectations in every way. Granted, I didn't win World Cup this year, but I went up there, missed my last trick, but I knew that I did my best. I put in the practice that I could. And just because of that reasoning alone, I had no excuses, no cards to leave on the table. I knew I did my best with the time I had. And it also gave me kind of a new perspective on, wow, like people, I practiced a good amount for myself, but there were definitely people who practice a lot more, and they deserve to have these higher spots than I did. I came in fifth this year. Still proud of that. Very proud with the result. Sucks to not hit your last trick, especially when it's your own. But it is the way it goes sometimes. But I just want to say that even if it's not fun, there's going to be people out there that say, no, it's not that serious. It's not that serious. You don't have to take it that serious. Well, yeah, those are some people, right? And I don't think they've ever probably won a competition or as many as you have. So it's for these people who want to sacrifice their time and practice and practice and practice. I mean, they're going to have the best shot. There's no doubt. You give yourself less and less doubt the more time you put in. And even if it's not fun, even if it sucks to, it feels monotonous to run through open tricks or whatever. I mean, this is just what's required to achieve what you want to achieve. And if you want to win an event, this is what you got to do.
Yeah, and if Nick didn't put in those hours, then he guaranteed his best chance possible. And if he didn't put in those hours, I don't think he would have gotten fitth. I don't think he
Definitely
would have
not.
gotten fifth.
Definitely,
It's a hard
definitely not.
KWC is a difficult competition, and it's also a reflection of how every other competition it's like if you don't practice as much as you can, you're not guaranteeing yourself the best possible chance of what you can achieve. And it's to go along with that, we touched on practicing, and so I think that brings us to our next point. We've covered the find your why foundation, and this, what should we call the subject of what we just talked about? The mental going into these comps, right? Like the experience of this practice and taking practice seriously. And that goes to our next point, practicing in itself. A lot of players who have won an event, they haven't practiced every single day. For some people have for these events, but you don't. As I was saying earlier, it's not like you have to. And these, we're going to kind of touch over a couple of practice strategies that we enjoy to kind of maximize the efficiency of your practice and the actual like bang for your buckness.
Right.
Yeah. So you
Go
ahead.
for it.
Okay.
Let's go.
we already we already sort of touched on this, but I want to reiterate it again. Building a schedule. This is really, really important because you're not leaving it up to chance. You're deciding for yourself when you practice. You're putting it in. And if you put it in, you're way more likely to get it done. If you wait for a good opportunity to practice, this goes with anything. This is very. I feel like a lot of things we're going to say in this have a huge carryover to pretty much his life. If you don't put it in, then you're not in control. It controls you. It's not, you're not in control of when you do it. You're just waiting for a time to happen, and that time may never come. And if it does, it's going to come far less frequent than if you actually prioritize it and made time for it. So scheduling in practice sessions, however small, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 10 minutes during my work break, 5 minutes during my work break, 20 minutes after I get home, 30 minutes on the weekend, on my free days, maybe an hour, 45 minutes, something like that. If you have these schedules in, you're going to have guaranteed reps that you're getting in, which guarantee the, ascension of your skill level and proficiency with the tricks themselves.
Exactly. And I mean, the hardest part is kind of starting sometimes. You don't want to, oh, I don't feel like doing it today. I don't feel like I came home from work. I came from school. I'm tired. Okay. Well, I mean, if you just start and do it for the first minute or two, you're most likely going to finish, most likely. And if you don't, then that's just kind of a note to yourself, right? Okay. I can't really do it at night efficiently as I want to. Where can I make time in a different part of the day to execute it efficiently, right? And there are different ways to practice. You can obviously run through the tricks a handful of times, whatever, do all the trick lists. And I think one thing that Zack and I usually do is we run through the trick list, right? But at a certain point after we like run through them a couple times, just hit them once, move on, hit them once, move on. We increase to, okay, can I get this trick 2 times in a row and then move on, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then can I get this trick 3 times in a row and then move on? And that's where it gets a little difficult because to hit a trick 3 times in a row is, I mean, you got to be consistent. You got to know the trick. You can't just be luck. And that's kind of a good standard too. If you are by yourself, literally by yourself, and you don't have Wi-Fi and you don't have any access to the internet and you can't talk to anybody, this is what you do. This is the base thing you could really do is practice, but focus on the consistency. You want to run through the tricks, get familiar with them. Okay, can I get them twice in a row? Can I get them 3 times in a row? What's going on? And it's just good to hold yourself to a higher standard because the more consistent you are in practice, the easier it is going to be. Obviously, this is obvious, but the easier it's going to be on stage because on stage you don't know what's going to happen, right? You don't know. Are you nervous? Like, are you new to competition? You really don't know how your body's going to react. And if you just go in there with that confidence, like, hey, I usually hit this 3 times in a row during practice, that's just going to make it all the more easier to give yourself the confidence to get it on stage. So there's that one strategy. But I would also, if I mean, I think it's important to incorporate that into your own time. But once you do have time to call other people and start, doing practice open matches against a partner, these are huge, right? Because you're trying to stimulate as close as possible to the real feeling of a competition. And you actually go on somebody with somebody. And Zack and I, luckily, we didn't actually do this every comp for a while. But in more recent years, right? I mean, we tried to practice with each other as much as possible, whether it was just us or, I mean, Johnny has been a great practice partner in the past couple of years. Whether it was, I don't know, some of the Hawaii squad, we used to go to Hawaii and then practice with them for some competitions. Bryson, a couple others. But Zack and I, we're brothers, and we used to live with each other up until last year, all the time, and we just decided, hey, we have this huge advantage. Like we can play each other anytime we want, and it's no matter how pissed we get at each other, if we're winning and losing, that's honestly part of the reason why I didn't want to do it at first, because I didn't want to lose to Zack over and over. And he probably thought the same thing. He didn't want to lose to me over and over. If that was, if one of us was having a good day and the other wasn't, right? But at the end of the day, it's like, okay, well, if you don't do this now, then you're going to be even more pissed in the comp when you don't do well. So Zack and I wanted to use this extra factor, like find a practice partner. Zack and I were lucky. We have each other all the time, but we have the internet now. You can do practice games online through Instagram, other messaging apps. I know my friend, everyone at UW, when I hosted my own event in Washington last year, Bellevue Kendama Battle, I know people were calling each other, practicing the tricks, running through them, doing practice matches. It really does help and really gets you, there's pressure, right? You get a point taken away from you. You don't get that kind of pressure doing it by yourself. You don't really know.
Yeah.
So it definitely stimulates a real competition mindset.
Yeah. And for me, when we started doing that, Nick, I think the most memorable time for me when we were doing that was in NAKO 2020. I remember vividly us and because at this point, guys, me, Nick and I were living in the same room, and it was a relatively small room. Rent was cheap, but we were living in the same room. And so that was that was a lot. But I vividly remember us having the light on and also the lamp on just to maximize lighting, because we both had just gotten home from work, or maybe you had to work for the entire day and then you got home and it's like, all right, now we're time to practice, and then vice versa for me too. And I vividly remember that time because it was frustrating. It was frustrating for me because this I mean, you were so like an amazing player. You always have been an amazing player. And actually, something I want to touch on too. This is why it's so important to have a practice partner. And one, again, Nick already said it. You want to simulate the environment. You want to simulate the experience of actually competing as many times as possible. You want to get as used to it as possible. Okay. You want to do that. So utilize everything. And with the internet, it's so easy. It's so easy. Everybody wants to practice for this event, and everybody wants to. And you make a new connection while doing it. You can get a group together. Maybe you can go, like facilitate a league of some sort, make just mock tournaments, just do anything to get yourself used to this experience of actually competing. It's going to serve you extremely, extremely well. But the next thing I wanted to touch on was the environment that you can create with the players around you, with your practice partners. At some point, let's say this, like at some point, me and my brother, we have a track record we are extremely good competitors. We have extremely good track record in competition. So it's not like I was playing just any random player, right? I'm playing the best competitor on planet Earth. That was literally it. And for me to practice against him every single day made me up my game, because I knew Nick, we had matches where if you miss, you're screwed.
Yeah, literally.
If you actually miss, you're fucked.
I would miss it. I'd just be pissed. I'd be like, all right, it's over.
It get to be that intense. I literally finished matches. I remember finishing matches losing, and I literally think to myself, if that was literally anybody on the face of planet Earth, I would have won. I would have won if that was literally anybody else on planet Earth. And the only reason I didn't win is because we matched four or five tricks in a row, and he still beat me.
Oh, yeah, that was insane. I remember the comp day we were practicing. Johnny had come to Washington, and we were all in an Airbnb together. It was so fun. And Zach and I were practicing the day one tricks, the easiest ones. And we went through 5 in a row, 3 for 3 matched every single one of them. And we are just like, all right, what is going on? I mean, this is insane, but I'd never done that before with anybody. We'd never matched 3 for 3, 5 tricks in a row. That's 15 makes in a row each. And I think that's just pretty incredible. So it really does pay off if you do it a lot, consistent.
Yeah. And I also, too, again, you mentioned Johnny. Okay. Johnny, Bryson, you see us, you see us practicing together and playing together. It's not really a coincidence. We're great friends, but it's also not, look at the skill level between us, extremely high. We hold each other. Well, I remember it too. It's me, Bryson, Johnny, Nick, and World Cup in 2018. I definitely remember this as well. It's a vivid memory. Also, it was us four and also Nonaka, we're all there practicing for Kendama World Cup. And some people, I remember Rolf saying like, "Oh, look, it's the tweak squad." Like, "Oh my god, you guys are trying so hard." It's like, like, yeah, obviously, like we're here to win. Like we're all, we're all holding each other to that standard where our environment is now not just, hey, we're here to have a good time. We're like obviously we're there to have a good time. We're obviously there to have fun. But it's also, the environment of player of the skill level and the drive that this group facilitates. We unconsciously and consciously hold each other to that standard. Where when you get around people who are better than you and are taking this as seriously as you, or around the same seriousness level, or more than you, you're gonna naturally feel like you want to try harder. And so it's not really a coincidence that me, Nick, Bryce, and Johnny are always at events practicing because we influence each other. We want to do well. And when we see others practicing, it's like it's natural for us to be like, all right, I got to practice too. I remember that's happened so many times where me, Johnny, and Nick squad to practice. Me, Johnny, Nick, and Bryson play each other practice matches, and even KWC, it's just a group of us. It's not the whole Sweets team. The entire Sweets team doesn't want to, they aren't going to take it as seriously as us. It's not even a team thing. It's literally just an individual thing. And individuals on each team who take Kendama competition seriously, they're always squad up. You see that with Soul. You see that with Kusa. There are players on different teams who have different interests, but for the players who really want to, do well, those are usually going to be not only the best players, but on the team, but also the people, of course, who really really want it, and the entire group is going to grow from it just from being in that environment.
Yeah, it's just not by accident. It's not like we choose our friends because, oh, these guys are really good. Like these are guys I'm gonna hang out with this whole trip. It's like, no, we have the same goals. Like we have the same goals. Like we want to go to World Cup and we want to actually we want to go up on that stage and murder. Like we want to kill. We want to literally do so well up there,
Yeah, we don't
And
want to leave anything on the table.
yeah, you don't want to go up there and come off and be like, man, I could have done more. Or man, what would have happened if I did more? Or what would have happened if I practiced? Last night, the other night before, the other night with these guys, for a couple hours in the onsen or sorry, I say the onsen, but I mean like that place I don't mean like in the bath. But yeah.
Why
What a
didn't I
great
practice
day.
naked in the onsen with these guys?
Yeah, literally, I should have done that, every single minute of my life. No, but you know what I mean. In the practice room of that onsen we stayed at that one year, 2018, right? I mean, it's just you have the same priorities, and if you surround yourself with other people, like Zach said, who want the same results as you, who want that, who recognize that being competitive is a mindset, and they want to do well and win, the winner's mindset. I mean, you literally are forced to do better. You're literally demanded, and it's a great feeling. So that's definitely another tip. It's to be surrounding yourself with as many people as possible who do want to win as well. I mean, you want to also beat them too, right? It's like, oh, these guys are really good. It'd be so nice to beat them. Like these are the best
Yep.
players that my team. I can't wait to beat them tomorrow. So it kind of goes. It just fuels everyone. Fuels the
Yeah.
fire.
And then one last thing is too is like, of course, this process is not going to always be fun, but if you're in it with other people, you're never alone, and it's actually
Mm.
the likelihood of it being fun is just go way higher because now you're not alone doing it. I've seen
Yeah, I get
players
it.
who, yeah, I've seen players who, I mean, I think I've seen some players who don't have a group and they still do really well and win. But it's the players I'm thinking of are like CJ Martinez and like Nick Nogura from like the back in the day in Cali. I mean, they didn't have any. I don't think they had groups, but they had their like parents helping them. Just to create
Parents
that
were
environment. So,
on my
so
side.
hey,
Yeah.
so I mean, hey, this people who don't have environments still obviously still win, but Nick and I are just discussing tips that are gonna enhance your possibility to the max. I want to touch on too. We already went over this a little bit, but I guess the like the method of practicing. Nick touched on, yeah, you can try to increase the makes you do in a row in order to move on for the trick list. One thing I've always liked to do is in a perfect world, if I'm practicing for an event, I start out, I get the rhythm of the tricks, get to know them a bit. I ramp it. I do go once a day throughout them, and then y'all ramp it up pretty quickly to going through the list three times per day, but only going through the like once, right? Like making the trick, move on, do that 3 times per day. But then, as Nick said, as the you can up the intensity. You have to get the trick 2 times in a row to move on. 3 times in a row. At 3 times in a row, that's kind of when I usually cap it, because 3 times in a row is directly correlative to actual comp. The maximum amount of tries you're gonna have with a trick against an opponent is 3. And if you've proved to yourself that you can get this 3 times in a row, it's gonna make it easier on stage. That is a very intense practice method. It as Nick said, it ensures dominance of the trick. You can get it 3 times in a row, you're good at that trick. You're good at that trick. And you're going to actually, within this practice method, the more you practice, of course, but if you're trying to hit 3 times in a row, you're going to be nitpicking at everything you can do to get to the trick to be as successful as possible. Nick is really good at this. He finds strategies within each tricks to maximize his potential of success. And you will find that, because if you're trying to do it 3 times in a row, and you're not getting it 3 times in a row, you're gonna start wondering why the hell you're not getting it 3 times in a row. You're gonna start doing some problem solving.
No, I definitely have specific. I'll go through a trick list. The more I go through it, I'm like every day I up to the combo, I'm just like, oh, if I point my Ken like this or tilt the Tama like this, then I have just a 1% chance better or 1% chance more of getting this trick more consistently. And I just figure out, oh, like this feels good for me. I'm gonna do it this way, for this trick, for this comp. And I vividly remember, this is some high level thinking for me. NAKO 2022 opposite hand juggle spike, and I'm pretty decent with my opposite hand already. I can do pretty good tricks. I'm got the Kente master.
You're definitely good. You're definitely good at your opposite.
Yeah. So I've done some. I'm not Edwin, but I'm for a normal person. Okay, well, like we'll say I'm pretty decent. Yeah. And then so I went. So I have this opposite hand juggle spike. I'm like, okay, I should be good at this. I'm decent at it. I'm okay. But I'm like, where can I find the next level? I did this against Johnny. This is the trick I won on against Johnny in the finals. This is how I did it, and this is my little technique. I would you can, if you go watch back the finals, you'll see it. You'll see it vividly. I tried to make it subtle as possible, but it is very subtle. I was like, okay, how am I going to get the Tama to spin my way every single time? It's my opposite hand. I don't have perfect ball control, so I did this. I spun the ball a tiny bit, just a tad to the left. I was straightening out the string, and right before I did it, it stopped spinning left.
Yeah.
And it starts coming back. It starts spinning barely, just right. And I thought, okay, if it's spinning right, and I'm doing it with my right hand, then if I juggle up and rotate it, it's not going to have any chance of going the hole facing left. It's always going to be on the right. So I'm going to spin a tiny bit, straighten out the string. It's going to spin back. And then I'm going to juggle up the spike. And I got it first try against Johnny, and I won. So
wow, I've never heard of that.
Like, I just knew. No, I never heard of anything like that either, until one day I just thought, like, wow, I can go one step further on ball control. I'll just control the spin of the start. and I wasn't like I was spinning right like crazy. It was
right.
Yeah.
Just a little, just a little bit to change the orientation of the ball, of the hole,
right.
On the ball,
whether it was placebo or not, it helped me, because it made me feel like this is what I need to do to get this trick every time. And I felt like it just felt like a ritual I had to do for the trick when I figured it out, and it worked. So yeah, I definitely, there's a lot of things you can learn from practicing, and you can go really nitpicking with your consistency once you want to get it 3 times in a row, and it really helps. Another thing I want to talk about, I guess we're on the last couple things of this first podcast, but our last couple tips. But I do want to just emphasize the fact that, if you're a competitive person, if you want to win an event, you got to be used to being in that competitive environment. You get used to entering competitions, right? And that could be anything in Kendama. It could be Instagram contests, it could be YouTube, it could be in person, online open competitions, Ken League. I know there's that stuff out there, setting a time or doing stuff against time. There's JKA testing, there's that out there, Kente testing. everything. You want someone, when someone's watching you and grading you on your performance, that's only going to make you, that's going to make you want to perform at the highest level. No one's getting watched and being like, no, this is going to be fun. Like, no, you're focused. Like, you're focused. You want to perform well in the eyes of that person. And also when you're tested on the spot, you want to do well for yourself as well, at least in my eyes. And this doesn't even stop at Kendama. You can be competitive outside of Kendama. Get used to competing out of sport, participating in different competitions outside of Kendama, right? You want to be this competitive person. And if you are, you're going to be taking up all these opportunities to surround yourself with other competitive players in any field and trying to come out on top. Because these are the people you're not going to feel the same joy of being your one competitive person in your friend group and winning a game of spike ball or a random other thing that's just like, oh, we're doing it for fun. Like, I'm better than all my friends who don't care about this like I do. That doesn't really hit the same as beating out some other, players who are competitive, skilled, and want it as bad as you do. It feels good to come out on top amongst them. And it's all about the group, all about the environment. So try to make yourself exposed as much as possible to that kind of environment, whether it be in Kendama, testing, any kind of test, whether it's Kendama or not, try to expose yourself to that because that's going to get you to the next level. In my opinion.
Yeah, I think people with competitive backgrounds have an edge because it's people with competitive backgrounds usually in sports, right? Because a lot of people do sports or something of some kind. Some people may not do sports, but they might do cup stacking or something. Anyway, any way to get that competitive environment, that pressure is very, very unique, and not a lot of people have experienced it unless they're competing, right? And as what Nick said, if you get for yourself in those same situations as much as possible, you're gonna again increase your chance of destroying every other external factor other than the fact of your true skill level and your true proficiency on that day of comp. What I mean is dispelling nerves as much as possible, distractions, sweats, shaking, anything like this. You're going to dispel those as much as possible, I think, because those are, if you do competitive things and because a competitive environment, brings about those things, and the more you become adapted to them, better you're going to be on comp day to focus on the one thing you're actually competing with and not any external factors. So, 100% agree with you there. Do you want to go over day of comp day kind of stuff, or do you want to leave that for a separate podcast?
So yeah, last thing we'll go over is just comp day prep. I mean, personally, I'll just share what I personally do. You can take it for what you will. But this is the last thing. Like I said, everything is decided. Like Zack and I have said this podcast this time, is most things are decided. Almost everything, 99% of everything is decided before you get there, right? It's all on you to prepare yourself as well as possible to do the best you absolutely can on the day of. And with practice and preparation, that's the only way you're gonna make yourself actually believe that you can actually succeed, in my opinion. But on comp day, personally, I don't really eat that much throughout the day. Before when I'm doing matches, right? I mean, I will eat when I'm done for the day, right? When I mean I'm done, I'm like, I don't have any more matches left to play. I'm moving on to the next round, or I may have lost, and then I'll eat. Okay. That's personally me. I try to get a lot of water. That's all I do. I'm usually fine on that. I wash my hands every single time before a match. I know Zack and I have done that for years.
I think I got you on that.
No chance of sweat. Zack might have put me on that. It's been so many years, so I probably forgot. But Zack, no, yeah, it was Zack.
That's what I used to do. That's what I did before at NAKO 2015.
Yeah. And it was like, oh, we have to go to the bathroom before every match. But like, no, well, let me just wash my hands. Like, so
yeah.
I remember the bathroom too. I remember the exact bathroom in the Mall of America that I used to go to. Oh god.
Hell yeah. Same.
Good times, dude. Oh man. Wow, great times. So yeah, washing, getting rid of sweat, getting rid of anything, make your hands clean. You don't want anything to mess you up. Anything at all. You want to mitigate the factors as much as possible, right? So those are a couple things I do. I don't really eat too much until it's over. I don't really, I don't mess with anything in my hands. I need to like keep them clean. And I'm really around my squad, like Zack and I said, with Nonica and Johnny and Bryson, at past KWCs and at NAKO, it's, Johnny, of course. Johnny's always with us. He wants the same thing we do, right? He wants to win. He's a competitive guy. He always has been. He's always been into sports, football, volleyball, basketball, right? So
if you guys ever played sports with Johnny and he's losing,
oh no,
it's you'll see the competitive side.
You don't want to see that.
Of course, every competitor, has it in them. They're at least they're like, maybe they might be suppressing it, but I've been playing volleyball with Johnny, and we're all with the Hawaii squad, we're talking shit, and yeah, that guy, he's full competitor mode. I fully realized it quickly. I was like, oh shit, we're really playing now. Okay, like
Yeah, he's competitive, and he's like, at one point when he gets super competitive, he's not on any team. He hates every. He's like, let's go. We scored a point, and it's like it doesn't matter if we scored the point or not. He'll look at the other, he'll look at the same team, and be like, you guys suck. Like, why would you better? So yeah, no, Johnny is a very competitive dude. The nature comes out though. The nature comes out
yeah,
for
we
different.
all yeah,
And hey, I'm not. I mean, we've all been there, right? If
yeah,
you
100%. Yeah,
you want to
nobody
win
wants
bad.
true competitors don't really want to lose ever. It's just like,
Oh, bad.
yeah. So
So we're
uh,
around the same squad practicing at Kendama events. Obviously, that's important. Get your squad who wants it as bad as you do, and just stick with them. I don't really watch other matches during my time at events. I really don't, unless you're one of my best friends. Unless you're one of my teammates. That's only when I'll watch your match. If not, I don't care. I don't care, and that's only because I don't want to spend my time watching when I could be practicing, and that is a
exactly.
mindset that I have. And if anything, I'll watch like at KDBC, for example. I'm in the last. I'm not in the last group, but I was in group D.
Those
People
days
go,
are over. No,
dude. People. Well, they also
it's
do it
just
by
the
different
projection is huge.
rules now, projection.
Yeah.
But anyway, doesn't matter. I'm in like the second to last group, maybe not even the second, maybe the third last, and people go up one by one, and I'm doing my. And as soon as the timer starts, I hear them go. I'm doing my own run, and I full marked my run every single time before I went up there, which was unfortunate because I didn't hit the last trick in the finals. But it's okay. That's why like I did my best. It was great. It felt good. But that's what I'm saying. Utilize the time, utilize the environment that the event is creating. Right? If it's an open match, then well, did this person miss? All right, let me go. What trick did they pull? Let me see if I get it. You can use that. You can keep using those things, and it'll help you. You can do that, or you can just practice with your friends and do practice matches at the event in a corner, wherever where you have actual space, right? I do like watching freestyle. I do like watching some players. In general, it just depends when my next match is. I'm not gonna like ignore everything, but I'm gonna watch Zack. I'm gonna watch Johnny. I'm gonna watch my teammates. I'm gonna watch a couple other players that I'm friends with at the event, like really good friends with at the event. Maybe some person I'm interested in. Oh, I've heard about this guy. He's really good. Let's see what's up. Um, but personally, for me, I'd rather just focus on myself and focus on my own thing. Those are the couple things that I do at comp day. Don't wash my hands. I pretty much fast until I'm done done competing for the day. Don't watch other matches, and I always hang out with the same squad who wants to practice like I do.
Yeah, 100%. Those tips are great. And the first time I actually heard about fasting was when Bryson Lee in 2016 Kendama World Cup. That was the year he won, and he was saying, "Yeah, I don't really eat before comp." I was like, "Oh, okay, interesting." And I remember after he finished his run. As soon as he finished his run, I obviously knew he won. But like, I remember it was such a thing. It was like, get this guy some chicken, get this guy some chicken wings, get this guy some chickens, yakitori, get him something. He only drank water that day, and he won. And I think a lot of players do this. They kind of limit their food intake on the day just to stay focused, and I think it really helps. I did that for Battle of the World last year. I ate one meal. I didn't fast, but I had one like something for breakfast, and I just drank LMNT, which is a electrolyte supplement all day. And I remember, I was with Johnny all day. I was just like popping LMNTs. I'm pretty sure I went through 3 of them, um, which is 3 grams of sodium and other electrolytes, potassium, magnesium. But yeah, I just did that, and I ended up winning that too. So of course, and these are just 2 events, right? 2 events out of the whatever, out of how many events there are. But this is something that can work, and if you haven't tried it, go for it. And if you don't wait to experiment with it on comp day, try it beforehand, and yeah, see how well you do. You might find extremely good benefits. Feeling much lighter, much more clear, less weighed down, more focused, something like this. So yeah, try it out and let us know what you think. But yeah, every other tip that I have is kind of just, if it's pretty specific. Obviously, if you're going through the day and you're competing on the tricks, you're going to be wanting to compete. You don't want to practice with the tricks that are on the level for the time. So if you're in the match level where you're doing level 1 tricks, only practice level 1 tricks, and so on and so on for level 2 and level 3. You only want to be focusing on the tricks that you're actually doing, ideally, right? So there's that, and also this is pretty specific, but of course, if you're starting to practice very late into the game and you don't have that much time beforehand, and you literally started about like a week or so before or 2 weeks before, and you don't, you kind of have to choose at this point. Do you want to dial yourself in to become a well-rounded competitor with all the well-rounded in terms of the tricks, or do you just want to double down on the tricks you're already good at? At that point, you kind of just have to decide for yourself. Becoming well-rounded at all the tricks and putting it in time, a lot of time to get a trick to be at a 4 out of 10 consistency may not be worth it with how much time you have. Might just forego it and put that effort into other tricks. So, yeah, that's pretty much all I'll say on that. I think Nick kind of hit it pretty well with his last words there. Nick, do you have anything else today? I have something else I want to end this with, but yeah,
Okay.
anything else?
I mean, I'll just touch back on your fasting thing at an event. I just think it helps with a lot of people just it depends on the person, but people get nerves and you never know what that can do to you at an
Oh
event.
my God, 100%,
I personally know
100%.
people who go to the bathroom a lot at an event. I
Oh,
mean,
dude,
they're
I
nervous.
used to be that person.
I did too. And you just gotta go. You don't want to leave anything distracting you on stage.
Yeah,
Gotta go
those
to
are
the
the comp
bathroom.
shits.
The comp shits, they exist. And yeah, it used to be me. Not anymore, but you know, that's why I prefer not to eat most of the time at an event. So, and I know other people can relate to that as well, but some people are different. They like to eat, they need the fuel. I just find what works best for me, and I think I like to just save eating until I'm done with my last match of the day.
Yeah, and if you don't want to fast, obviously you want to you want to probably only, I don't know, like whatever you eat, make sure it's just a lot of protein. So yeah, that's all that.
It's satiated
um,
with good food. You don't want to be screwing yourself up with
yeah,
so many different processed. I'm sorry, it could go on and on,
yeah,
but
we could go on, but yeah, eat some eggs, eat some eggs and meat in the morning. You'll probably be completely fine. Actually, you're going to ensure the best possible scenario. Um, well, guys, we're kind of wrapping up here, but the one last thing I want to say to really, round this all out is everything we discussed in this podcast is not a guarantee for any external result. You are not guaranteed to win an event from if you do all these to a T. You're not guaranteed. It's not a guaranteed like, hey, oh my gosh, like why did all these tips? Why didn't I win? There's only one winner. There's only one
Mhm.
winner, and so many things can happen on comp day. Everything. So many things can happen. You can practice a ton, you could suck. You could practice a ton and you could just choke. So many things can go wrong. All of these things, so many things can happen. And the one thing you can guarantee, though, the only guarantee there is when you do all these tips is you're guaranteeing the internal result of you preparing yourself to the best of your possible ability to do as well as you possibly could or can. That's exactly what you're doing when you do this. And that's something that, I think everybody realizes when they're practicing it. This isn't I reach an X level of practice or X amount of hours of practice and will do this result guaranteed. This is not how it works at all. Some people practice a ton and get out in the first 2 rounds. Some people don't practice that much and make it to the finals. You know, these things can happen, but who cares? Because that's everybody else. And do with what you will with that information, but you're gonna guarantee the best possible result for yourself if you practice a lot. I mean, some people may disagree with me on there. Some people may think that going without practice is better, but I don't know. I don't know. I very much think that's not
You have to be
the
a very
majority.
special case for that. You need to be playing all the time.
Yep.
If you and there's people out there who don't practice that much and can still do really, really, really well. They're just playing a lot more than you in general. That's what they're doing. And they've also come to a point where they're just that much better than you at Kendama. Their base skill level is just extremely high. And so even if they don't practice, right? I mean, coming from my example too, back in 2018, I didn't practice for Dom in the D hardly at all, and I was able to win. And that's because I was playing all the time, and I was also a lot better than
Everybody there. You're the best player there.
I
Yeah.
was. Just because I'd been playing so long for every hours every day, and I just got to this point where my base skill level was just higher than everyone around me. So it went down the way it did. And there are people like that can do that now, but you're most likely not one of those people. And even if you are one of those people, you're always gonna have excuses, and you're always gonna if you don't practice and you lose, you always have that great excuse, right? I didn't practice. Oh yeah, it's all good. I don't. You always have a built-in excuse. Well, good for you. That's good. That's good for some people. That's what, someone who wants to win all the time is going to be thinking about. You don't want to be satisfied. You want to know that you really didn't leave anything on the table and you gave it your all with the time you allotted for yourself. And I just think that's more of a, I guess, fulfilling way to live life in general. So, well, I think we can end it on that. But yeah, I would just say practice and just back up what Zack said. Practice, prepare as best as you can, and you're definitely going to be a lot more satisfied than if you didn't. I promise you, no matter what the result is.
Excellent. Yeah, guys. Well, thank you so much for listening today. We went over how to win a Kendama event. We mentioned the find your why, foundation, and methods and mentality around practicing. Hopefully, you guys enjoyed that. This is the first episode of many to come. And yeah, guys, thank you so much. This has been the first episode of GPOD, and we will see you soon. See you later.
Appreciate you guys. See you later.